is November 24th, 2024. This is over a couple days, about 36 hours, so there's a good amount here. A lot of things changing, a lot of things are interesting. There is talk of a pretty substantial ceasefire, possibly between Hezbollah and Israel. But then again, it is the Israelis talking about it, so we don't know what their side says. There's been a lot of talk about Iran finally doing a response to Israel after the late October strike, but we'll see. Basically, in that, there's a lot of contention of what America's going to do. They don't really know what America's standing is because of Joe and his lame duck presidency and him doing the crazy crap that he does. There's a lot of, question marks. So, and then, of course, as reported earlier on PrepperNow, there's been some Atacms and possibly Storm Shadow. Now, there's been some questions about the Storm Shadow. They were through Russian channels. They said it was going on, but there hasn't been any confirmation from the Ukrainian side, I guess. I don't know. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, but, this is all the way the war is working. Nobody wants to really let you know what's going on, and especially with these Western weapons that are striking deeper into Russian territory. Of course, the problem is that there's a lot of geospatial and intelligence that comes from NATO and America, and because of that, well, the Russians are unhappy. So, cozy on up, get yourself a nice beverage, put down the sports ball, and let's get into some crisis. Bush. I guess that's the thing. That's a major thing now. Everybody does. I get all these people in the comments saying Bush. So, all I can say is, it's the world is no place safer than it was a few weeks ago when the Savior got into office. We just, I don't know. I wish the man luck. I hope he does good things, but I expect everything to kind of spiral out of control. As reported last night on the PrepperNow live stream, the debt is getting crazier and crazier. They put $1 trillion in debt in the last 115 days. So we're going to see. We're just going to talk about it and let you all know, and we'll go from there. So looks like we got a good amount in here in the old classroom. So we're going to get started. Hit that like button if you're so inclined. Do the subscribe thing. And yeah. Also, I really want to call out the persistence of my one downvoter. My videos get 98, 99% approval ratings across the board after, a lot of different views, for me at least. And there's always one person. There's just, every time I turn the camera on, always has that one downvote. I really appreciate the dedication. They could have fallen off a long time ago and, gone on with their life, whatever. But just every single time, like clockwork, I can always count on that one lone downvote in the background. And I really appreciate your dedication. It's impressive. And so, to that, cheers. All right, folks, let's get started on the crisis report for November 24th, 2024. Ceasefire in Lebanon, ? Atacms used in Europe, ? Here we go. Bringing an important update to the rhesus monkey escape within the town of Yemisi. All of the monkeys have been recaptured, except for 4 monkeys, which still remain free and are speculated to be within the town. This squad of monkeys have defied the Americans and remained free since November 7th. Friends, live your life like an escaped rhesus monkey in Yemisi, South Carolina, okay? Israel has attacked a multi-story building in the center of Beirut. It claimed to be a high-ranking member of Hezbollah targeted in the attack. Poland has urged EU countries to strengthen their border with Russia and Belarus as a way to show Donald Trump they're committed to their own security. President-elect Trump is considering appointing Richard Grenell, former acting director of national intelligence, U.S. ambassador to Germany, special envoy for the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Grenell has proposed solutions like autonomous zones and is cautious about Ukraine joining NATO. No final decisions have been made, and it's uncertain if Grenell would accept the role. Britain's manpower crisis is getting worse. British Defense Secretary John Healey confirmed for the past year, British armed forces have been losing 300 more full-time personnel each month than they have been recruiting. Why? Because nobody wants to go die for a losing cause. And Lord knows the Brits have kind of been chock full with the ladyboys out there now, rolling into their country from all points of Africa and elsewhere, and also their own homegrown domestic ladyboys that really would rather do their nails than actually fight a war to protect their country, or at least that's what they'd be told if they were to get into a fight with Russia. So we wish them luck because they're screwed. Ukrainian sources claim that the Storm Shadow missile strikes on a Russian Presidential Affairs Directorate sanatorium resulted in the death of 18 military personnel, including Lieutenant General Valery Saludchuk. The strike reportedly also wounded 3 North Korean military representatives. Multiple drones of varying size detected over RAF Lakenheath, an important U.S. Air Force base in the UK, housing F-35A and F-15E fighters. Unconfirmed claims that F-15 fighters were scrambled to intercept the drones and that flight operations were affected. Swiss government barred exports to a Polish military hardware supplier after concluding that some 645,000 rounds of Swiss-made small-caliber ammunition ended up in Ukraine in violation of Swiss law. Ukraine is trying to develop its domestic missile program. Despite limited funding and capacity, Kiev aims to advance its missile program as a strategic tool against Russia. 11 people were killed and more than 60 were injured in an Israeli strike on central Beirut. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot: "We should not have any red lines when it comes to the support of Ukraine. We do not discard any option, including sending troops into combat," he said. I love the French accent. I'm not going to lie. Russia's new weapon, Oreshnik missile. Russia recently targeted the city of Dnipro in Ukraine with a new experimental missile named the Oreshnik. Vladimir Putin claimed that no anti-air system in the world could intercept the new weapon. Details about the new missile. The missile pictured is an RS-26, which is claimed to be what Oreshnik missile is derived from. Ukraine has lost more than 40% of the territory they took in the Kursk region during the initial offensive, Reuters reported in reference to a high-ranking Ukrainian military source. Israel media reporting the target of the elimination of Beirut with Talal Hamia, head of the Hezbollah external security organization known as Unit 910, in charge of overseeing operations abroad. Among groups, first generation joined in the mid-'80s. The Israeli army advanced deep into Lebanon and besieged Hezbollah terrorists inside the Nakura area after cutting off all land routes and all supply lines. Troops by air, fire by air, land, and sea. Major missile attacks, by the way, today by Hezbollah, second most ever. Last time they had this many was Nasrallah, was was his day after his killing. So we'll get to more on that. Saudi report in the area of the attack tonight in Beirut, a meeting of a number of senior Hezbollah officials was held. Seniors are defined as out of touch. So far it is known who the target of the attack is and what their it's not known who this person was and what their condition is. So, dozens of pro-Palestinian demonstrators erupted into last night into Montreal, Canada, in front of a gathering of hundreds of representatives of NATO countries. Only 3 were arrested. I was in Montreal over the summer, beautiful city, if you like big cities, all the cityness that comes with it. But pretty neat city, all things considered. Not the observatory. There's this big religious site on the top of the hill, St. John's, I want to say. But it's beautiful. If you ever get a chance to go to Montreal, go check that place out. Overlooks the entire city. You can climb all the way up. But we went there and spent the afternoon. It was absolutely beautiful. Report in Iran: 5,000 additional new and advanced centrifuges were activated in the nuclear facilities in response to the decision condemning Iran by the Board of Governors and the International Atomic Energy Agency. Mossad, investigating missing Shabbat emissary in Abu Dhabi, may have been under Iranian surveillance. Missing Shabbat envoy in Abu Dhabi is Rabbi Zvi Kochan, who lost contact on Wednesday. Suspicion is growing that he was killed by hostile entities. Pretty much confirmed that he was murdered. They don't know. They're still investigating. IDF completed the third wave of attacks today against terrorist targets in Beirut. Hezbollah military headquarters were attacked. Israel has launched a strike on Syrian-Lebanese border crossing in the Homs region, according to the Syrian state news agency. Rachel Maddow has been hit with a $5 million pay cut, as Musk and Trump Jr. are joking about buying MSNBC. Total U.S. debt has risen to $36 trillion for the first time. That's up $1 trillion in 115 days. United States brings record-breaking reinforcements to Syria. The U.S. has brought 2,258 trucks since the beginning of 2024. Trucks carry military and logistical and equipment and missiles from Iraq, Kurdistan. During the year, 136 cargo planes loaded with weapons and ammunition landed. October recorded the highest number of trucks, reaching 400. October and November saw the highest number of military aircraft landings. 15 aircraft landed in October, 18 in November. Represents 30% of the total number of aircraft landed this year. So, yeah, there's your tax money. Polish farmers started blockage in the Ukrainian border of the Medyka, Shangini border because they wouldn't allow trucks from Ukraine to enter into Poland. North Korean troops have already invaded the eastern sector of Ukraine. Technical advisors enter the Mariupol area, according to CNN. German farmers are dissatisfied and organizing protests in Berlin. Organizers expect around 10,000 people at the rally, and the tractor convoys have already headed towards the capital. Money from Moscow, which makes farmers in France, Poland, UK, and Germany paid shills, I guess. Say that again. Oh, good Lord. This guy, it's the one D-bag, the German dude. So, just put reports out, bro. We don't want to hear about it. They're farmers, okay? They're just trying to make their... Serious, like, how could you look at what's going on in Europe and say that they're, like, paid actors or whatever? Like, if you know even the most basic of stuff going on in Europe and the attack on the farmers... I'm sorry. Maybe it's my wife's roots coming up and growing from a very large farm family. I did not, but I'm sorry. What a D-bag. God. All right, I'm going to hold my nose and keep rolling through this guy's stuff. H5N1 update. Florida, H5 avian influenza virus detected in St. Petersburg. France has given green light for Ukrainian strikes on Russia with its long-range missiles. According to the foreign minister, Ukraine has the right to strike Russian territory with the French long-range missiles. Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has said so. Western red lines are going to be avoided, so the Scalp missiles, the French ones, are now able to go and be used. France does not rule out the option of sending French troops to Ukraine, also according to the minister's announcement. U.S. authorities believe that hackers from China have hacked the gadgets of politicians in Washington, according to CNN. According to the TV channel, about 150 people received notifications from the FBI that their conversations and correspondence could have been compromised. Ukraine launched 10 U.S.-made Atacms missiles towards the Kursk region of Russia, causing at least 4 impacts. Russia will retaliate with new long-range missiles, according to this D-bag. Nearly 40% of young Americans get their news from influencers. Many of them lean to the right, study flies. How you doing? PrepperNow here. Hello. Recent study from the Pew Research Center showed the 40% of young adults age 18 to 29 regularly get their news from these types of news influencers, many of whom skew conservative. Trump's sit-downs with Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Aiden Ross, and Andrew Schultz, all of whom boast millions of followers across social media platforms, allowed him to reach directly to young voters without the scrutiny that typically comes with interviews with journalists or watching them give softball questions to Kamala. Maybe it's because the mainstream news just flat out sucks. Just saying. Philippine Vice President Sara Duterte said Saturday she has contracted an assassin to kill the president, his wife, and House of Representatives Speaker if she herself is killed in a brazen public threat that warned was not a joke. I mean, you think that our politics here in America are crazy? Just think about that. I've hired someone to go out and dispatch you if you decide to dispatch me first. Crazy. Today is the 91st anniversary of the Soviet-created famine of 1932 to 1938, known as the Holodomor. That was yesterday. 3.5 million Russians, Ukrainians, Germans were systematically starved to death over the period of 2 years. 10% of the total population perished. Students do not learn about the Holodomor in middle school, high school, or even college. There aren't dozens of major Hollywood films depicting the horrific events that took place. However, there is one educator who does this in what he calls the G-Side Project every spring. The only rule of it have to be a modern in the last 300 years, and you cannot do the H cost that happened because of our WW2 unit. So students are allowed to pick one of these. I give them a range of options from the African ones to my favorite, the King Leopold of Belgium, who dispatched 17 to 20 million Africans, all in the name of rubber tires. Yeah, they learn a lot in this. It's their favorite project, and I can tell you with no uncertainty that there is someone out there who is teaching them about the Holodomor. There is no general mobilization in Russia instead of rumors, Kremlin, Peskov. Canada, NATO opponents, and pro-Palestine rioters on the streets of Montreal. Man sets fire to cars, smashing windows, and clashing with people with tear gas and tear gas grenades. Coincides with the 70th session of NATO Parliamentary Assembly, which takes place November 22nd to the 25th in Canada. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte made a secret visit to Donald Trump's residence in Florida, according to The Telegraph. Officially announced this week that earlier the Washington Post newspaper wrote that the NATO Secretary General intends to discuss the strategy of Ukraine with him. According to the publication, Rutte's goal is to convince him that world should be fair and that it is taking into account the interests of Kiev and the alliance as a whole. Publication also reported that the Secretary General would try to convince Trump that the unfavorable agreement could harm him during his second presidential term. It should be noted that after Rutte's visit to Trump, information emerged about the appointment of Richard Grenell, who was against Kiev's admission to NATO as a negotiator to Ukraine. Russia, Putin announced partial mobilization, and mobilizations will begin today. So Peskov said no, this is saying yes. So far, only reserve citizens, mostly those who served in the armed forces and have relevant specialties and experience, will be eligible for the conscription. So, Axios, quoting Israeli officials, say Donald Trump, who wants to end the Gaza war quickly, will have more influence on Netanyahu than Joe Biden. Imagine that. Missile threats declared for Crimea services due to detection of Ukrainian UAVs approaching with a speed of up to 600 kilometers per hour. Strong impacts, Kursk region, Russia, after AFU launched at least 5 Atacms missiles. Other sources reported more launches. Short resume of Ukrainian Atacms strikes on Kursk region of Russia. Russian channels wrote from 2 reported impacts instead of Ukrainian channels writing about 4 impacts. We can expect more ICBM launches by Moscow, as already suggested. We'll see. Ukrainian Atacms strike has been reported in Kharkiv, Kursk region, where the nuclear power plant is located. That's a problem. France declares that Ukraine can use French Scalp missiles against Russia. Russia's new Hazel Oreshnik missile will reach London in 16 to 17 minutes, Berlin 11 to 12 minutes, and Paris 15 to 16 minutes, Daily Mail writes. Gates and Bezos are funding initiatives to fight global warming by introducing climate jabs into the food supply, including plans to jab the livestock destined for human consumption. I think they're doing great work, personally. E. coli poisoning triggers a nationwide recall of over 167,000 pounds of potentially tainted ground beef. By the way, on those, this one right up here, there is this thing I have called SubscribeStar and Locals, where this is the kind of stuff I put out there. But it's even more intense. In fact, you, again, should have seen the video I did on the, let's just say about little tiny human beings and some of the really crazy stuff that's going on to them. We post stuff like that on there, place, because it's a safe space. I can post it and not get repercussions on some of the larger big tech. So if you like supporting what we're doing here and you want some of the crazy stories that get you in trouble, check out SubscribeStar and Locals. E. coli poisoning triggers a nationwide recall of over 167 pounds of potentially tainted ground beef. Awesome. U.S. Secretary of Defense maintained that it's likely that there are still around 10,000 North Korean forces in the Kursk region of Russia. He also said that based upon what they had been trained on, the ways they had been integrated into the Russian formations, I fully expect to see them engaged in combat soon. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, Russia produces as many weapons and as much ammunition in 3 months as the entire European Union does in a year. Millions of Ukrainians will experience a very hard winter this year due to a lack of energy infrastructure. 80% of Ukraine's energy infrastructure is damaged or destroyed. Russia launching major attacks against energy infrastructure every day. People are left without heat, light, running water, winter approaching. Mustafa Nayem, former head of the infrastructure development, resigned in protest over the government's failure to release 1.4 billion euros in allocated funds. Ukrainian officials claim that the contractors expect too much profit. Should Trump curb aid to Ukraine when he takes office as U.S. president in January, Kiev will have to ration its air defense missiles, probably allowing more Russian rockets through to hit the targets. Or they could do a ceasefire and negotiate. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham's message to the nations around the world: if you help the ICC, we're going to crush your economy. Yes, they're promising sanctions. For 2 days, starting tomorrow, parts of the Russian airspace being closed for reported new missile test. 5 Atacms struck Kursk. Claims that Russian S-400 station was targeted in last night's Atacms strike in Kursk. Ukraine may launch its next Atacms missile attack on the Rostov region, where 4 military airfields are located. Something is put forward by the Wall Street Journal. Washington previously compiled a map of 200 military targets in Russia for the Atacms missile. Ukrainian armed forces can strike at least 4 military airfields in the Rostov region with American long-range weapons. Publication refers to a map compiled by the public organization Institute for the Study of War. It should be noted that Ukraine carried out its second and final long-range strike on Russia on Wednesday, November 20th. Then on Thursday night, Russia launched a new medium-range missile on Ukraine, at Ukraine, which hit Yuzhmush and Dnipro. Putin threatened that such strikes could continue. After this, Ukraine armed forces did not undertake any new attacks with the Western long-range missiles. Biden wanted to announce an invitation to Ukraine to join NATO after Trump's victory, but abandoned the idea, thank God. Bloomberg writes about it with references to sources in an attempt to strengthen support for Kiev amid concerns that Trump would lead the matter to negotiations. Biden administration considered the possibility of publicly calling for a formal invitation to Kiev to join NATO. But in the end, the White House decided to abandon this given the low probability of success of the short term. Amish came to western North Carolina and built 100-plus tiny homes to shelter Helene victims and from the cold mountain weather. However, local and state authorities kicked the victims out of their homes, saying they didn't pass code, because that's what you need. You got to have code. You can go camp in a tent, but if someone builds you a physical structure that can guard against the elements, no. No, you got to get a code for that. Government's got to get their pound of flesh. After Putin's warning, Britain fears a cyber attack that will paralyze infrastructure and cut off electricity. Officials warned that terrorists may be eyeing Macy's Thanksgiving parade as a potential target. Heavy gunfire at Israeli embassy in Amman, the Kingdom of Jordan. Kingdom of Jordan. Security forces have closed the area. Roads leading to the Israeli embassy in Amman have been closed, and police forces have rushed towards the scene. Jordanian drones have also entered the skies in order to scan the immediate area for any possible suspects. The event is ongoing, according to Middle East Spectator. Russian forces capture a British mercenary fighting for Ukraine inside of Russia. Initial report of the launch of Storm Shadow missiles towards Russians' regions of Krasnodar, Rostov, also Kherson, Zaporozhye, Crimea, Krasnodar Krai, Rostov region. This is what I was talking about, where these were all the Russian channels that were saying this going on, but they were not confirmed by the Ukrainian. So it's up in the air. It might have happened, it might not have. Putin sent the West an absolutely unambiguous and clear signal. There was hope that they would listen to him, but Washington ignored the warning, so decisive countermeasures were required, according to Peskov. New development for a possible ceasefire deal with Moscow, published by the Times newspaper. Kiev's European allies may agree to deploy the main forces of the Ukrainian army on European territory in order to formally fulfill one of the Kremlin's main conditions, the demilitarization of Ukraine. As for Ukraine's non-aligned status, this country's entry into NATO is not being seriously considered. Israeli media citing a security official, Beirut will be shaken severely today in response to the targeting of Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv was targeted again by Hezbollah missiles after the air alerts were declared for other sectors. Iran is preparing to respond to Israel, Tasnim news agency has stated, quoting the Iranian Supreme Leader's advisor. Israeli Air Force carried out at least a dozen airstrikes on the southern suburbs of Beirut after the Israeli army released an evacuation order for the residents of the Dakheh district. Yediot Ahronoth, Iran attack imminent. Unconfirmed reports of movements of missile formations inside of Iran. So that is a Israeli news group. So who knows? Avishai Adrai, spokesperson for the Israeli army, said tonight you will find out who makes the decisions. Russian Shahed UAVs flying into Kiev from 3 directions. They will work on military facilities. Lukashenko said if the border areas of the Union State come under attack, he will be forced to use nuclear weapons. Lovely. Russia is expected to launch more than 100 UAVs against Ukraine. Ukraine forecast says just as explosions rang out in Kiev after the first wave had already arrived the area of destination, it is expected that Russian UAV launches will not stop until the morning. Latest Iranian propaganda teaser in the light of the upcoming True Promise 3 retaliation strike on Israel indicates that Tehran will launch huge amounts of ballistic missiles towards strategic locations. Ukraine launched missiles towards the Kursk region of Russia. Russia, an oil depot, has been hit by Ukrainian combat UAVs in the Kaluga region. As a result, a tank is burning in one of the oil refineries. Not long before the fire, locals claimed there was an attack and explosions were heard. Unusual military operations ongoing over Dallas, Texas. United States Air Force multiple E6B Mercury nuclear command and control aircraft, Hyson 41, are all up over Dallas and one on the west coast. At least 3 UAVs have struck the Tayfun plant, Kaluga region of Russia, causing huge fires, leaving residents without electricity. Instead of TASS claims who report all UAVs were intercepted by air defense units. Moscow region is under drone attack, suggests by Ukraine advisor. Israel's military said Hezbollah fired around 250 projectiles into its territory from Lebanon. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham once again openly admits that one of the reasons why the United States threatened war in Ukraine is the rare natural materials in the Donbas. Trump is going to do a deal to enrich ourselves with Ukrainian rare earth minerals, a good deal for both Ukraine and us, he said. British ambassador said that the United Kingdom is ready to send troops to fight for Israel against Iran. United Kingdom will be close ally and is prepared to put its own aircraft and its own personnel in harm's way to defend Israel, says Ambassador Simon Walters, speaking to Israeli journalists at his Ramat Gan residence. Ukrainian stores started to put instructions on how to act in case of a nuclear strike. Picture I showed on the community page is from Odessa. Petition calling for an immediate general election in Britain has reached over 1 million signatures within 24 hours. I think it's almost at 2 million now because it's going up. It was at 1.6584, 584,000. So it's probably up to about 1.617 now. People absolutely hate Keir Starmer because he's a dick. So critical situation in the southern part of Donetsk Oblast is becoming even more acute. Ukrainians' defenses east of the village along the fields are collapsing, and the Russians are once again making advances several kilometers wide. Russians have now taken almost every forest line east of the village. Even the farm in front of the town is already under Russian control. Meanwhile, fighting in Rozdolny has begun, and the Russians are also getting dangerously close to the T-05-18 further north. Things are no better south of Kharkov. There, too, Russians are advancing for miles and have probably even managed to form an encirclement. Fighting is going on in Trudov, Yelezhnev, Ilanka, and Romanivka. In Kharkov itself, the fighting is currently taking place in the center, school number 5, direction of Pokrovsk. The Russians are also said to have gained control of Zorya and Pustinka. In the meantime, the offensive in the direction is mainly focused on advancing towards Shevchenko, which the Russians are also succeeding in doing. Barak Ravid, citing a senior Israeli official, says Israel's direction is to move towards a ceasefire agreement in Lebanon. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, hopefully former soon, has seen his approval rating drop to negative 38 points, lowest recorded for any Prime Minister ever, because he's a dick. Poll conducted by More in Common with 1,012 respondents shows a significant 49% fall from his plus 11 rating in July when Labour was triumphant in the election because Rishi Sunak is a friggin' idiot and told the entirety of the country of Britain that he's going to be sending their kids to war. So he said that douchebag statement almost as if it was a setup to get Keir Starmer in there. Who'd have thunk that one? And then his jackass got in there, and here we are. Something that many missed in the past week, United States Treasury is warning about potential risks to international financial stability and economic security from new cross-border payments systems. Yes, the BRICS, baby. Majority have stopped laughing at this economic bloc. So, amount of missiles Hezbollah has fired today in central Israel, especially Tel Aviv and Netanya, is totally unprecedented. Russian media reported that 30,000 Russian troops are preparing to counterattack in Zaporozhye. Rural counties in California and Illinois are pushing to secede from their states to separate from liberal-run cities because they're dangerous S-holes. We know something about this. We live in wonderful blue Maryland, and our county and a few others said, we don't like you and we want a GTFO because you suck. But, of course, they weren't able to do that, so. One can wish. Bird flu virus has been detected in raw milk sold by California Raw Farm LLC, prompting a recall of quart and half-gallon milk products with November 27th expiration date. Significant data breach has revealed the personal information of around 35,000 Israeli security personnel, including members of Mossad, the Israel Defense Forces, and the Shin Bet. I saw this and could have downloaded it, and I did not go near it with a 10-foot pole. No way. This was being published on the Eastern Telegram, some of the bigger ones like Medman and, Middle East Spectator. Sorry. And, no way. Nope, not touching that, not clicking on it, moving on. No way. Good luck. Not doing it. Today's alarm map, 541 alarms so far, only on the day after the assassination of Nasrallah. Were there more alarms from Lebanon? Advisor of the Supreme Leader in Iran, Khamenei, Ali Larijani, Iran is preparing for a response against the Israeli attack. Senior military officers are looking at different options, and this requires precision and secrecy. And, of course, they are because, well, Trump's going to be in 2 months. Netanyahu reveals in closed discussion strategy vis-a-vis Lebanon. This is the supposed ceasefire. Prime Minister warned in discussions that there is a danger in the time left of the Biden administration to take unilateral American steps similar to the end of the Obama era. Therefore, the right thing now is to go to a settlement with Lebanon, subject to an American commitment that we will respond to any violation, and there will be many. Fundamental condition in the matter is that we decide what is considered a violation. During this time, the reservists will rest and fill the missing armaments. In addition, there is an interest in disconnecting the arenas as soon as they signed ceasefire against Hezbollah, even though they always tied it to a similar truce against Gaza, will subdue them and sever the ties between them. That way they will remain isolated, and the pressure on them to go to the kidnap deal will increase. They're not going to stop fighting. There's nothing I see that they're going to make them stop fighting. And gold fell by $35 in 15 minutes chart at one point, currently at $26.70 an ounce. Spot gold fell by 1.31%. Intraday currently below $26.80 an ounce. COMEX gold futures fell more than 1% to 2.684.9 an ounce. And the UBS target is 2,900 gold, year end of 2025. Preferred hedge against geopolitical tensions. Also, the Fed printing money. So, with the BRICS and everything else, I'm not giving you financial advice, but prepping in different ways is a smart idea. So, that, my friends, is your crisis report for Sunday, November 24th. Please hit that like button, do the subscribe thing so I can click out here and be welcomed by my downvote, by my dedicated downvoter who clearly is unemployed. So, I hope you find a job soon, buddy. Anyway, God bless you all. Hit the links in the description. Check out X and Minds and Twitter and Gab and, what else? Truth Social. And check out Subscribe, Star, and Locals. And consider becoming a member, like the really cool kids in green on the screen of the chat. Okay? Love to have you. $2 a month gets the all this all the time. It's just a little something. That way I don't have to take outside money for products and stuff like that. Trust me, I don't. This is a labor of love, but we do love to do it. So, folks, God bless, and we will see you on the next one.